afternoon, good evening, and good night, everyone. Welcome to KerbSide Collections with me, Adam Ritchie, a podcast about physical media collectors for physical media collectors. Join me as I burrow into the psyche of this episode's avid collector, Brad Frohloff. How are you, Brad? Nice to have you on.
Yeah, no, I'm doing well. Nice to meet you. Good to be here.
Yeah, ditto. So whereabouts in the world are you located?
I'm in Brisbane. I'm in
Oh,
the
yep,
Centenary suburbs. Yeah.
just up the road from me, from on the Gold Coast. So yeah, oh, that's cool. So
Okay,
I guess
cool.
I guess first off, cab off the rank. Do you have anything you want to anywhere you want to send people? Anything to plug? Anything on the side that you do?
Well, technically, I've got a website called fightevil.com, which is fight-evil.com.
Okay.
But technically, it's a site that I haven't kept up with. But I am always in the back of my mind trying to get it restarted. It is something that I began technically in 2002, and it's just as life goes on,
Yeah.
it's just something that's kind of been going in and out of my life. But that's the main thing. I do have a YouTube channel that's
Oh, yeah.
tied to it. I've tried doing the whole YouTube thing, but yeah, it's just a consistency thing at this point. But I am
Yeah,
looking to
it is a lot of work.
yeah, I am looking to get that going once again because I did just get a new camera, a new
Hmm.
microphone, which I hadn't had before. That always helps.
It does, yeah. It's good
Yeah.
motivation to use them, isn't it? I've done the same to start this show. Just got myself a mic. I was like, okay, now I've got to do it. So it actually sounds interesting. Fight Evil. What's the webpage about?
Well, it really started around the hype of the Freddy versus Jason movie. That
Oh,
was a
right.
that was a huge thing. Two
Yeah, it was.
horror icons colliding. And it was a site that kind of started out like, what if all these other characters fought each other? And it never really went
Ah,
too far beyond that. And then it just turned into your general horror website reviews and things like that. But
okay.
that's really how it started. I did have a message board back in the day, which had, I think, a couple of thousand members. Uh,
Okay.
and we had regularly probably over 100 regular users that would chime in here and there every day. But once social media took off, message boards died,
Yeah.
and it was kind
Yeah.
of the end of it. And I never really adapted to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound interesting because it would have been. I mean, I'm a recent convert to horror, like just within the last year or two, and I've really fallen in love with the genre a lot. So it sounds like something definitely up my alley. It'd be worth checking out. And Freddy vs. Jason is something I definitely need to check out. That's on the list. It's still a lot of years behind on horror, so there's a lot of catching up for me to do. But I do like the older stuff a bit more.
Yeah. Just a little, sorry, just bumped my mic there. Just a little interesting tidbit about that site. It started out technically as a MSN group. I'm not sure if you remember MSN groups.
I
Um,
do. Yeah, I do. Yes. Long
yeah,
story
but
short.
the funny thing is, I actually met my wife in that group.
Oh, wow.
So it was a worldwide group. It only had probably less than 100 members at that time. And just out of coincidence, one of these
Yeah.
members just up the road in Toowoomba, like 45
Amazing.
minutes from me, we were just in a chat session and things took off from
Yeah.
there. So yeah,
The odds. I mean, that maybe that's why you had to set it up to meet your life partner. That's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
impressive. Well, we might get stuck into the show then, if you like. I guess
yep.
first cab off the rank. So, why do you actually collect physical movies? I don't like to ask it this way, but with so many streaming options out there, what's your attraction to physical media? I can see behind you. I know this is an audio only medium, but you have a lot of
Mhm.
VHS tape behind you by the looks of it, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, this is just my computer room, so there's only a little selection there, and it's really because I've run out of room in the living room, and that's where the bulk of my physical media is. And it I guess it started out with VHS.
Yep.
The big thing was growing up, going to video stores. That was a huge thing, and back then you couldn't really buy movies, or if you could, it
They're
cost a lot,
expensive.
and it was
Yeah.
your selections limited. And for me, really, the first movies that I ever managed to get were Child's Play 2 and 3 on VHS. And
Oh,
it cost me like
nice.
$50 each. This is like
Yeah,
the early
yeah.
mid 90s because I'm a huge Child's Play fan. Child's Play is my favorite movie.
Okay.
I can never get the first one though. I always got mixed signals. It's banned here and all this kind of stuff, and it
The
didn't really
first
make
Child's Play.
sense. Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
oh,
that's what I was told. But then still, you've got video stores carrying it, so it was kind of mixed
yeah,
signals.
yeah.
It was just one of those tapes I could never really get. I've got it now, but at the time, it was tough. So it really started off with that, and then I didn't get a massive amount of VHS back in the day.
Mm.
Really, DVD is where I really started my collecting
Yep.
journey. And the
Yep.
first DVD I ever bought was Child's Play.
Love that.
And the funny thing about that is I actually bought it before I had any sort of
And
DVD
any.
player to play it on.
Yep.
I
Yep.
just saw it in a CD store. It was there. I just had to have it.
You knew you were going to adopt the technology. Yeah, that's a clever way to go about it.
Yeah.
I
And so
sorry.
once that PlayStation 2 came out, it had the built-in
Mm.
DVD player, and that's how it all
Yeah.
got started. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I think I remember I used to work in a video shop in the late 90s as VHS was transitioning into DVD. And I think my first DVDs were the Bond series, actually. Yeah, that's
Well,
hard to remember, but I used to buy
technically,
them.
my first Blu-ray was Casino Royale because it came with a
Ah,
PS3.
I did it.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't remember that. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess back to that original question is, what is the reason you collect the physical movies? Is it just something you like to have in hand, or is it?
Yeah. I mean, I've always kind of been obsessed with movies. It was always like the fun thing for me to do
Mm,
growing up.
yeah.
Even when we would go on holiday up to the coast, we would always hire a VHS player
Oh, yeah,
and
right.
rent movies. Because
Yeah.
when I was young, I grew up in the country where it was half an hour drive to the nearest video store, so it wasn't
Hmm.
really something we got to do all the time. And we didn't really have a VHS player, so we'd always have to rent a VHS player until we could
Yep.
afford to buy one. And
Yeah.
yeah, it just really took off from there. But in terms of collecting, I guess you could say I might even be more of a movie hoarder than a collector.
People
Like
say
I
that to me as
don't,
well. Yeah.
yeah, I don't really focus on like specific labels or genres. I'll
Okay.
buy anything from anywhere as long as it's something
Ah,
I think I
right.
might enjoy. And I also tend to get a lot of things that I'm like, I might give this a shot at some point, but it might not be my thing. So I'll buy a
I'm,
bulk lot of movies from someone. There could be 50 movies in
ah,
there. I'll get rid of
okay.
maybe the ones that I know there's just no shot of me being
Yep, yep.
interested.
Hmm.
But then there's the other 80% of the movies in there that most of them I'm probably not going to enjoy, but who knows? Maybe at some point I'll give them.
Sometimes your tastes do change, but I think there's a bit of a better positive spin you can put on the hoarding side. I kind of label us as we're film preservationists. We conserve film. You never know. It's just kind of a weird joke that you never know when the Nazis are going to come back and burn all the art in the world like they did in the 40s, right? So as long as they're around somewhere, we're keeping them safe, I think, for future generations. So do you still watch streaming at all? I mean, do you watch a lot of movies? Are you on Letterboxd or anything? Do you do anything around
I
that?
look at Letterbox, but I don't have an account
Okay.
because, as I mentioned before, with my site, I'm always thinking about restarting that. And if I'm going to do reviews, I'd rather do it there than anywhere else. But
Yeah, fair enough.
in terms of
It's a,
streaming, I do stream a little bit, but I always find that with all the streaming services, I find myself spending more time looking at what's there than actually watching.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Back in the day with the video store, you couldn't spend the whole day in the video store. You had to
No.
eventually pick something up and take it home.
Yep.
Whereas here, you're looking through the selection and you're like, okay, I've found a good movie here that I'm interested in, but you don't want to pick it just in case there's another
There's
movie
something
around the
better.
corner that
Yeah.
might be better. So,
Because we
yeah.
are there can be a thing as too much to choose from, honestly. I mean, I have that same problem, and sometimes I'll just go, look, I've scrolled through 10, I'm just going to hit play on this one, and I'll just watch it. And sometimes you find some great films doing that, but even going through my physical collection, I'll just find something and like I don't know what to watch, and I just kind of almost shut your eyes and just pick something out and just deal with it. And yeah, and sometimes you've got to be in a certain mood for certain films as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's so how big is your collection? Do you catalog them at all, or exactly
Uh,
what you have? No.
I would this would just be like a ballpark figure. I would say it's close to 10,000.
Oh, wow.
Uh,
And that's why you've run out of room.
yeah, I'd say I have roughly, give or take, around 4,000 Blu-rays, and the majority of the rest would be DVD.
Okay.
There's a few hundred, maybe VHS tapes, and I do have
Wow.
one laser disc just to have a laser disc, but
Yep, yep.
I don't have a laser disc player. Yeah, but yeah, I don't catalog them. I tried doing that like on an Excel spreadsheet at one point,
Yes, yeah.
and I've looked at the apps. Like the apps look good, but I think the problem for me is I'm
You've got too
too
many.
lazy to catalog it once I receive it. And as soon as you miss
Uh,
one, which ones you've missed cataloging? And
I'm
I don't know.
I
It's
guess starting with a collection of 10,000 would be a very long process to get them all in, but I started mine when I only had a few hundred, and that took me a few days. And I have a spreadsheet as well, and I'm very anal. So if I buy something or something arrives in the post, it doesn't leave my room until I've cataloged it, and then I'll shelve it. So I'm very meticulous about that because I did have that instance where I did forget something, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I've got that movie, and I'll go scrambling through my collection, and there it is. I'm like, okay, now I've got to go catalog it. So
yeah.
yeah, I
So
do.
for me, it's like once you miss it, you got to go through your whole collection just to make sure which ones like you've
Yeah,
missed. So
absolutely. And with that size catalog, that would be a tough job. So what's the thing you're most proud of in your catalog? Do you anything you have boldly on display for like a trophy for people to see? Do you have box sets? Are you
um,
big on box sets?
I'm not really huge on box sets. I'm not too worried about special packaging or anything like
Yeah, cool.
that.
Yep, yep.
In a perfect world for me, I would be fine just every movie having its own standard Blu-ray Amaray
Would be
case.
nice, wouldn't it? Shelves are
I,
nice and tidy and
at
yeah.
least they look nice and tidy to look at if they're all like that. Yeah, so like if I had to pick one thing that I enjoy owning would be that original Child's Play VHS,
Yeah.
just because it takes you back to when you first started watching movies, and
Such nostalgia, yeah.
yeah,
Do you actually go back and watch the VHS tapes? Have you gone back and done that?
not really.
No.
I do have a couple of VHS players,
Yep, yep.
but I really don't watch VHS for
Yeah.
enjoyment. It's just that brief nostalgic aspect to it, and then I'd rather watch Blu-ray.
Understood. Yeah, no, I totally understand. I used to have quite a few VHS tapes, which I think would be collectors now, like X-Files and Simpsons ones that are just never going to be seen again. And I regret having to get rid of them just through Movie House and that. And I reckon I'd still check them out just for the nostalgia value and the see if you can track them in so you get a clearer picture and stuff. That was always fun.
Yeah.
So you said you don't do you collect 4K at all, or is it mainly Blu-ray?
I've got a
I,
few 4K, but it's not a format that I seek,
okay.
that I'm seeking out.
Yeah.
It's really only the 4K happened to be about the same price as the Blu-ray, so I might as well just get the
Yeah.
best quality version. But something like Roadhouse, which is a decent
Hmm.
movie,
Excessive
comparing a
price.
$15 Blu-ray to a $60 4K,
Yeah.
I'm okay with the Blu-ray.
100%. Totally agree with that. Yeah. There's, I mean, I do like my 4Ks, but if I own the Blu-ray, it takes a lot for me to want to upgrade to the 4K version
Yeah.
of
I,
certain
I,
things.
I might do it just for my like all-time favorite
Yes.
movies.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. I can't
That's
see
fair.
myself upgrading 50% of my collection to 4K. I don't even
But
think I'd have the money to ever do that.
no, the other thing. Do you have the Chucky box set on 4K? There's a 4K box set of that from Arrow. I think it's an Arrow release.
I've got the first movie on 4K. The rest of them I've got in a Blu-ray box set.
Right.
I'll probably try to upgrade those, but once again, they're just kind of expensive. I'll get them on sale when you can get them for about $35 each.
Yep.
But Scream Factory, they're the ones who have probably the best releases of
Mm,
them. I did notice they did have some like production issues with them in
really?
terms of discs being cloudy and things like that.
Oh,
I don't know.
wow.
It's when I received mine, technically I bought the first one and the third one, and I had to return one of them because I got it from Amazon and the disc
Mm,
was kind of scratched, and yeah, it just didn't look good. And
Oh
apparently
wow.
that was one of the issues that they were having with it. So I'll look at getting them again at some point in the future.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if they're your favorites, so you've got to hang on to your favorites. So it leads on to the next question a little bit. So do you have any labels that you seek out? Like, is there any labels that are your favorites that just general releases or?
There's no real specific label that I collect. There's some good labels out there, though. Obviously, Umbrella
Mm,
does some good stuff.
yeah, they're
Indicator
very
has some good stuff. Vinegar Syndrome. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I can name pretty much all of them. It's more about the movies for me than the labels.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I like that
Yeah.
answer. That's absolutely fair. We are spoiled with a lot of choice nowadays. Like people say, physical media dying. It's absolutely not. It's only growing, and it's just becoming a bit more of a niche market, in my opinion. I think the fear mongering is a little bit over the top, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. Anyway, side rant from me.
Yeah.
I might do that a few times. So, are you? What's your setup at home like to play on? Are you big on the quality of what you're watching? Do you have like Atmos sound or OLED screens or whatnot?
No, I've got a fairly old 5.1 setup. It's an old Samsung. To be honest, I forget what model it is, but
Yeah.
actually, I think it might be a 7.1. I just never really get the opportunity to use 7.1.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, in terms of TV, it's just a 50-inch TV. It's not 4K. Like I've got some
Okay.
4Ks, but I don't really have a 4K setup.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I could spend a lot more money upgrading my setup, but then
Yeah.
I could just use that money on more movies. So that's the
Yeah,
dilemma.
exactly right.
But
Yeah.
but I do enjoy the Blu-ray player that I have. I've got a Oppo BDP 103, which
Oh, right.
was one of those players that I think a lot of collectors really respect, and I've been using that for more than 10 years, and it hasn't skipped a
Oh,
beat.
wow.
Still works like it did 10 years ago.
Beautiful. Is that Oppo like the phone Oppo?
Yeah, yeah. They
Oh,
use. I don't know
didn't
if
know
they
they made
make
them.
the players anymore, but back then it was like the highest standard player you could get.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it is
I never
well,
knew.
it's not region free out of the box, but I had it modded to be
Ah,
region free.
okay, yeah, that was actually going to be my next question, whether it was a region free. So do you order, like, where do you order from? You just kind of, doesn't matter where you get them from, I guess, if you've got the region free.
Yeah, I'm usually just looking for the best deal, so
Yeah,
wherever that could be.
yep.
In Australia, we have the benefit of getting a lot of movies $5, $10 cheap at
Mm,
whether it's JB or one of these other local retailers. But yeah, I pretty much just seek out wherever I can get the movie at the best price, and as long as it's still like the ideal version, clearly you don't want a cut version of a movie
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you can spend an extra $10, get the best version. But I've been buying physical media online for a long time, ever since I would say 2003.
Oh, wow.
Like
Wow.
I've been buying Region 1 US DVDs from
Ah,
Amazon since then. So
an early adopter.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not cheap, but you could get a lot of things that weren't available in Australia at that time.
I
Yeah.
was going to say you probably have some very rare stuff in your collection. Like, yeah, there's a lot of good collector stuff getting out there at the moment. I know I've got a lot of FOMO from stuff I've missed out on in the past that I regret not buying. Dogma was one of them. I had the Blu-ray in my hand in 2015. I remember that day.
Well,
So gutted.
I'm pretty sure they're bringing that out. Didn't
Yeah,
Kevin Smith say he's got the rights now?
I thought he said he wasn't able to get the rights. I saw the physical media president posted that Paramount had brought them, but he said, but Kevin Smith replied to him saying, no, they haven't. So I don't
Yeah,
know what's
that
going on
well,
at the moment.
yeah, that did happen, and then it was like a month or two ago. Apparently, he said at some event now he finally does have the rights to it, but I'm a
Right.
little cloudy on it. But
That's
that
exciting.
yeah, that's what people are saying. So I think at some point in the near future, I don't know about a physical release, but I'm pretty sure it'll be back on streaming at the very least.
I reckon we'll get a physical for sure. I know because Kevin, because I do follow his career a little bit and a couple of his podcasts, and he mentioned once that he was able to fund his second Jay and Silent Bob movie because so many people brought the physical of the first one, and Lionsgate were like, "We made a lot of money off that, so we're going to fund your second one as well." So I would imagine he would probably go with Lionsgate to distribute Dogma. But in saying that, Dogma's available for free on YouTube in 4K. So if you
Okay.
did want to check it out, I don't think a lot of people know that. Uh, but yeah, it's sitting up there for free, which I'm
Yeah.
sure will be taken down once they release the physical.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. I've still got the old Region 1 US DVD. I've never upgraded that one just yet.
Oh yeah, no, hang on to that for sure. So, well, we're getting near the end of what I was wanting to ask you. So, is there anything that you're looking forward to being released, or keeping in line with the Dogma conversation? Is there anything else you're looking forward to,
I mean,
or
there's a
anything you
couple of
want,
move.
even?
Yeah. There's a few movies that I would like to see released. I've got my top three favorite movies of all time, which will just never change because of the whole nostalgic aspect. Obviously, the first one was Child's Play. The other two, well, one of them is Stephen King's It. I know that's technically a mini series, but that's I'll just call it a movie because
Yeah,
it's
fair.
under
Yeah,
3 hours.
yeah.
Thankfully, we've got that on Blu-ray, and it's a fairly decent presentation for that one. But
Okay.
the other movie from my top three, and this is a movie no one would expect someone to be in their top three. It's a sequel to a very much loved Van Damme movie, Kickboxer 2.
Oh wow,
So
wow.
that's a movie.
Not Kickboxer. It's the
No,
sequel that
not
you
not
want.
the first one, the second one. I'm a
Love that.
massive Kickboxer 2 fan, but most people don't like it for a few different reasons. But I think it's a good movie. That's one that I would love to see get a release. You can't get that anywhere in the world on Blu-ray. You can't get
Yeah,
it
right.
from UK, can't get it from Germany, you can't get it anywhere.
Wow.
And what hurts even more about that is it's been available digitally in HD for probably 15 years.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Can't get
and
that.
I'm pretty sure it's with Lionsgate too. So I'm not sure why
That's
that
quite
one doesn't.
surprising. It is a surprise they wouldn't release it,
Yeah,
actually.
so that's one. And just in addition to that, the main villain from those first two Kickboxer movies, I actually got to meet him earlier this year,
Oh,
and in fact, I actually sat
it's
down, had
amazing.
dinner with him. So
Wow.
I was the first person that he's ever seen, and he does heaps of conventions and everything. He's the first person he's ever seen with an original script for Kickboxer 2. So he signed that
That's
for me.
amazing.
Um,
Who's the actor?
his stage name is Michel Kesey.
Okay.
His real name is Mohammed Kesey. So
Right.
yeah, he played Tong Po, the evil villain in Kickboxer 1 and 2. He's actually best friends with Van Damme growing up. So
Oh, wow.
they both flew from Belgium to America to make it into the movies.
And they did. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you
But
met him at like a supernova or something, did you? Or was
uh,
it
it,
just
it was a private setup that he had where he came over and did some events with martial arts schools and then
oh
met
wow.
fans and things like that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's the only famous person I've ever met to my memory, and really the only famous person I ever cared to meet. So that was
Yeah,
a
wow, that's
happy
fantastic.
coincidence. But
That's brilliant.
but there are two other movies in mind that I would like to see get a release. The next one is a Kevin Bacon movie called Death Sentence, which is directed by James Wan, very
Yeah.
popular
Oh,
Australian
really?
director.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it was
I've
a
never
movie
heard
he
of
did
this.
after Saw.
Okay.
Yeah. That's one of my top 10 favorite films. And technically, it does have a Blu ray release, but none of them are adequate
Right.
for two reasons. Like the UK release, it's just a theatrical version in 1080i, which
Yeah.
is not great.
Yep.
You can get it 1080p in some other countries, but it's still the theatrical version. And there is a much extended unrated cut, which you can get on the Region 1 US DVD, but you can't get that on Blu-ray. So that's
Wow. You're coming out with the deep cuts. I've never
yeah,
heard of that
yeah.
either.
So that's another one that I would like to see. And the third one that I would like to see is a movie from the late 80s called The Last Fling, which stars John Ritter. And
Okay.
it's I think it was a TV movie. To me, it's like the perfect midday movie to watch. But it's more of a drama, romance, light comedy type movie. I really enjoy the music in it, and I think the music in the movie is done by the guy who did the original Nightmare on Elm Street theme
Oh,
music.
for real. Okay.
So you can kind of hear similarities in it, but which kind of feels awkward going from a horror movie to a like a romantic comedy, but
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
Man, they're fantastic answers. Like films I'd never heard of, and I'm sure anyone listening, well, hopefully they've heard of them. I thought I knew a lot of films, but yeah, I'd never heard of, well, a couple of those. I didn't know James Wan had such a quick follow-up after Saw as well. So that's
Yeah,
interesting. I'll definitely seek that out.
yeah. I think that Death Sentence movie is actually based on the same book that those you remember Death Wish with Charles Bronson?
Yep.
It's kind of like similar type of movie, and I think they're
Right.
both based on the same novel. If memory serves me correctly, don't quote me on that.
Okay. I'll definitely look that one up for sure. The other ones, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I'd find them, but yeah, I'll look up the James Wan one. Okay, what are we up to? So how do you strategize your purchasing? Do you just kind of, I think you've kind of mentioned before that you just kind of go for the bargain hunting. You don't, do you buy on release very often, or you're happy to wait?
I'm usually happy to wait, unless
Yeah,
it's something that's like 10 out of 10 type movie. I have to have it straight away. I'm more than happy to wait 6, 12 months and get it
yeah.
on sale.
Is there
Yeah.
anything that you've missed out on that's went out of print before you were able to get it that you kind of regret?
I'm sure there is, but I just
Never
can't
comes to
really
mind.
think of anything off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
Yeah.
And you said before you don't care about packaging too much. It's just you want everything to be uniform, which I totally
Well,
understand.
on that point, I was just looking at my collection before coming on here, and because I thought I might get a question like that about the packaging, and I was looking at my collection. I was looking at these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies that I've got in this pizza box set. Like
Oh
it's
wow,
shaped like a pizza box, and
yeah.
it looks like a pizza box, kind of smells like a pizza box too. To be honest, I'm more than happy to sell it, get the
Oh
just what I think Umbrella did a 3 pack.
yes, yeah, they
I'd
did.
rather just have a normal Blu-ray case with the movies if I
Yep.
can get more money for that special packaging one, which is long out of print.
You should. Are they DVD? Is that the DVD versions of those films, or are they
No, they're
Blu-ray as
they're
well?
Blu-rays. I got them from America, I would say 2010.
Right.
And it actually
Wow.
includes not just the first three movies, it also includes there's like an animated movie in 2007, I think it was, which
Did
I
you like the recent one that came out last year?
actually haven't watched it yet.
Okay,
So
definitely worth checking out. It's surprisingly impressive, actually. Like it's really
yeah,
good. It's fun,
yeah,
a lot of fun.
I don't mind Seth Rogen, so that's certainly
Mm,
not holding me back. Yeah, I'll definitely give that one a look as soon as I
yeah,
can.
cool. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if if you're into that franchise, yeah, definitely worth checking it out. I don't even know if it's on streaming anywhere or not at the moment, but yeah, it's. I've been waiting for the price of that disc to come down, to be honest, because it's one of those ones where I'm like, I don't mind so much if I miss out on it, but it's never really come down in price yet, which is really bizarre. It might be in a 2 for 40 one day soon, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm never really too worried about missing out on more mainstream movies. I feel like
Yeah.
they're always going to find a way to either do a new release
Yep.
or it's going to be hard for them to sell out because they make so many copies of them. But it's more the obscure movies, like whether
Mm.
it's Vinegar Syndrome. Once they're sold out, who knows when you're going to get the opportunity to get those again.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. Do you order directly from those websites, or is this stuff you get through Amazon or other third parties? So I know
I do
that a lot of
order
them don't ship
direct.
here. So
Yeah, I do order direct where I can. It really, like I said earlier, it really just is where I can get the best price. So sometimes
yeah.
Amazon might be cheaper than getting it direct, and then vice versa. So I do order direct from a lot of different sites, and then even if there's a site that I want to order from that doesn't ship to Australia, generally I'll just use a freight forwarder. I use Hop Shop Go. That
Okay.
the shipping can get a bit expensive, but
Right.
when I do use it, I tend to buy 50,
A lot.
60 movies at a time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then the
Fair.
shipping is manageable.
Okay. Well, I've always been a bit skeptical about those freight forwarding places because I hear bad. I just hear bad reports from some of them. But Hopscotch Go, you said might be worth
Hop
something.
Shop Go. Yeah.
Hop Shop Go. I'm
Yeah.
going to write that down. It might be worth checking out for me because there's been a lot of, especially with Criterion stuff, because they have good sales sometimes. So it's hard to
Yeah.
obviously don't release them.
And normally the shipping on those is very quick. Like
Mm.
once you pay, I know one time I paid for my stuff to get shipped. It was like a Friday night in Australia. I had them on the following Monday. So
Oh, for real?
that's probably a rare exception of being the absolute
Mm.
fastest delivery, but generally less than a week. Yeah.
Oh, that's impressive. That's really good to know because I've had a lot of dramas with with stuff turning up in the mail actually, especially with the last Prime Day sales. It was horrendous. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, kind of coming near the end of my questions for you, to be honest. So wrapping it up. I mean, I know you've told me about your favorite film genres and whatnot. And is there any directors, or do you follow actors, directors, or writers? Anyone you seek out?
There's no one specifically that I just follow every single movie, but there are certain directors who I'd say have a pretty good track record of
Mm.
making something that I enjoy, like Brian De Palma. I enjoy
Yeah.
quite a lot
Okay.
of his movies. I think he
Uh-huh.
had a really good stretch. I was once asked a question, it was something like, which director had the best run of 5 movies in a row?
Yeah.
And I think De Palma, if you excluded one that he did, I think it was called Home Movies, which I never saw. But I think if you excluded that one, he had like Scarface, Carrie, Dress to Kill, I think Blowout,
Hmm.
and then what's the other one?
After Blowout,
I think it
I'd
might
need
have
to
been
look
The
it up.
Fury, something like that.
Okay. I've not seen The Fury. Have you looked up Rob Reiner's run from the 80s through the 90s? Because he had
Um,
literally 5 belters in a row. I mean, if you're a Princess Bride fan and it goes through to A Few Good Men or something like that.
Yeah,
So
I,
I can't
I was
remember off the top
actually
of my head.
talking about The Princess Bride earlier today, so that's
Oh,
a
really?
coincidence. But I wouldn't be able to name too many movies off the top of my head from Rob Reiner, even though I have watched certainly a
Hmm.
bunch of them.
Oh,
Yeah,
Stand By Me would be in there as well in that
yeah,
run of
that's
five.
a
Yeah.
that's a good one. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, look, thanks for being on the show, Brad. Really appreciate it. And
sure.
look, hopefully you've had some fun. I know I have. And hopefully the listeners have had some fun as well. Is there any, well, you've already told me where you want to send people to your website if you get that back up and running. Hopefully you can manage to do that soon.
Yeah. I'm going to really try and push to do a lot more YouTube stuff. I am working on a new Kickboxer 2 channel as well because,
Ah,
like I
smart.
said, I've got that original script and
Mm.
it has a lot of stuff in there that no one knows about. And there's so many fans of that movie, despite it not having the best reputation. There's so many fans of that movie, and no one has ever told them all these things that were written for the movie that never made it into the movie or that got changed and things like that. So that'll that's something on the horizon too. There is
That's that.
actually there might have been one or two questions I thought I would ask.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
and this first one is kind of a little morbid, I guess. But I remember when you first asked people if they were interested in coming on. You remember, was it Peter? He was quite old.
Yes. Yeah, Peter Powell.
He's,
Yeah,
yeah, he's got a massive collection,
he
and he
does.
mentioned
Yeah.
his health was not the
I wonder.
best.
Yeah.
Uh, and it got me thinking. No, I'm only 40 years old, so I've still got a lot of time left. But like, it got me thinking about what do we do with our collections when we're kind of coming towards the end? Like, because
Literally.
if we pass, then unless we've got someone else who's really excited about those movies, we're
Yeah.
really burdening people with them, I guess, especially me if I've got 10,000 plus. I don't know.
It's a
It's a question in the back of my mind. Yeah.
it is a really good question, and it's kind of timely too, because a couple of weeks ago I have 17-year-old twins. And I just brought new shelves. I stacked everything up, and they were getting ready for school one morning. And as they do, they like to take the piss out of me because that's the way we are. But they were like, "What's going to happen with all these when you die?" I'm like, "I'm only 46." I'm like, "Oh well, I hope I've got a good, hopefully 4 decades left at least. That'd be lovely."
Yeah.
But I said, well, honestly, this is your inheritance. And when I do go, and if I do go when I would prefer to go, which is a long time, some of these could be worth a lot of money, to be honest, because I mean, some stuff I have has already increased in value. I mean, it's not going to buy you a house or anything, but who knows in 2 decades, 2 or 3 decades, what the situation's going to be like. Not everything's going to get re-released, and there's going to be a lot of nostalgia for these times, and nostalgia is a big money maker. I know I've spent a lot of money because of nostalgic reasons. I've owned the Goonies on every format ever they've ever released it on, or it's ever been invented. So yeah, hopefully it gets to that stage where it can be a good inheritance for our families. But otherwise, I'm probably just going to end up in a Vinnie's bin, or go to Lifeline or something. Like that's probably what will happen to it, and then someone's going to reap the benefits of that. I mean, I've got a collection of about 1,500 movies. I reckon there's a good 300 or 400 that are still in the cellophane, like that still have not been unwrapped. I mean, I've got movies I bought in the late 2000s that are still in the wrapping. I've still never seen the movie, which is bizarre because I've owned them for so long. But yeah, it's a scary prospect to think of your own mortality, but an interesting question when it comes to where's all your shit end up when you do go.
Yeah. On one hand, you don't want them to just give them away because that some of
Yeah.
them will certainly have value, but at the same
Mm.
time, are they really going to go through all of those and try and find the ones that have value
I was
if they don't know?
I have a good joke with my son, particularly because he likes Brewster's Millions, and I said, well, I'll leave these to you because they'll be worth a bit of money, but you're only going to be able to sell them and make the money from it if you watch every film, and by that time, hopefully, there's going to be thousands and thousands. So yeah, it's you've got to watch them all to be able to sell them. That'll be the
And,
stipulation in the will.
and piggybacking off of that topic, because you mentioned you still have quite a lot that are still in the wrapping,
Mm.
as do I. And given however much time we've got left, whether it's 20, 30, 40 years, like there's so many movies that if I've got near 10,000 and maybe a couple thousand I haven't watched yet, am I going to be able to get through all of those in
Yeah,
those
it's a lot.
30, 40
Yeah,
years?
yeah.
It makes me wonder, like, why do I keep buying more movies if I'm never going to get through them all?
You're not alone in those thoughts. I have the same thoughts. Because I have Letterboxd, I know how many films I watch per year, and I watch around 600 movies a year. But honestly, if I knock off 10 off my watch list, I add another 15 because then I fall in, because I do follow directors or writers or actors, and then I want to watch everything they've done. And I've recently gotten into watching a lot of old movies, like from the classics from the 30s through to the 60s. And then I find Cary Grant. So I've got to watch all Cary Grant or Humphrey Bogart or Katharine Hepburn or Shirley MacLaine, even, and then I'll see Billy Wilder or Howard Hawks. I've got to watch all of their stuff, even though it's hard to watch all of their stuff. I mean, just before this recording session, I'm Alfred Hitchcock's my all-time favorite, and I found on Tubi Jamaica Inn. I'd never seen that, and I've got about 15 minutes of that to go. So I want to watch. He directed like 70 odd movies, and that's a lot to catch up on. I mean, a lot of my movies I have seen, but I'll sometimes watch a movie if I see it on streaming or get it through other nefarious means. If I love it, I'll go and buy it anyway, and then it'll be in the plastic till a couple of years time when I rewatch it. So it's not just films I haven't seen; it's films that I have seen and loved and just haven't rewatched. There's a lot of that around my collection as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess the other thing I was just curious about, because it's something I struggle with, in terms of how we display the collections.
Mm.
Typically, I think most people would just put them in alphabetical order,
Yep.
and some people might put them in groups of genres and things like that. What do people do with like double feature and triple feature movies? Like, I'm always stuck on where to put those on the shelves.
Yeah, that was actually a question I was meant to ask you, and I've obviously overlooked it because that's a big question for me as well. Is like, how do you arrange your collection? Because we all have our own way of doing it. Like I have my Blu-rays are all in alphabetical order, just my Blu-rays, but then I'll have box set Blu-rays in another section. I have a section, two shelves full of Asian cinema, including anime and just films from Japan and Hong Kong, and then I'll have a shelf with my like boutique labels like Mubi and Criterion. But then I have my 4Ks and a whole other different set of shelves with my 4K box sets sitting on top or underneath that. It depends on the size of the box. It's weird. I know where everything is. Other people might find it a bit weird to find something. If I say go and find this movie, they might struggle. To be honest,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
you similar to that, or do you have?
Well, right now I've got everything just in alphabetical order, regardless of genre, and it's not. I can tell you right now, it's not the ideal way to do it once you get to a certain amount of movies,
Yeah,
especially if you're not cataloging them in any kind of way. So
yeah,
for
yeah,
me, like if I say, okay, I feel like watching a comedy tonight. I'm going to get up, look at my collection, and see what I might want to watch. But now I've got to kind of scan through all the other genres just to kind of look for comedies. So once you do get to a certain amount of movies, I think you really should group them by genres, still in alphabetical order by genre. But and I think there's a reason why video stores back in the day did that,
Yeah,
because
it's a really good point.
yeah. So
I think nowadays though genres
yeah.
are really hard. They're harder to define, film genres, because I actually have separated out my horror movies, but then there's other movies that I go, that's kind of horror, but I'm not gonna put it in my horror because I don't classify it as a horror. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but when I was recently reorganizing, I was like, I've got Ready or Not in my horror section, but I'm like, I don't know if that's actually really a horror, but it kind of is. Yeah, but it's in there anyway. Like The Menu is classified as a horror, but I'm like, that is not a horror film.
Yeah.
So I put, yeah, that's just in my regular collection. So yeah, genre is a good idea, but I find it really hard to define genre sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And they keep coming up with all new subgenres and everything. And
That's it. I mean, you've got
yeah,
horror, then you've got horror comedy, or you've got romance, and you've got rom-coms, or you've got sci-fi thrillers, sci-fi horror. It's like, where do you put it? And that would confuse me. I know for me, that would confuse me so much more. Like, where am I going to find Alien, in the sci-fi or in the horror? Yeah, it's
yeah. And then you've got movies that like something like Evil Dead, where the first one might not be so much comedy, but then the other one's a comedy. And what do you do with
nuts.
those?
Yeah. That's right. And then I've got a box set of. I actually have the box set of those three films. I'm like, well, I wouldn't know where to put that, so that just sits in my shelf with my little Blu-ray
Yeah,
box sets sit. Yeah, it's well, and to be honest, if the more people listen to more people on this show, then I guess we'll all get to know how we all go about it. So I've got a few more people lined up to interview. So the show will go for a long time, fingers crossed, and we'll get to learn about each other.
yeah.
Yeah. So everyone out there listening, if you have enjoyed the episode, give us a follow at KerbSide Collections on Instagram. And if you are a collector and would like to be on the show, send me a DM. I'd love to have you on and get to learn about your collection as well. So until next time, thanks for listening to KerbSide Collections.